How much money is cross-cultural miscommunication costing your organization? It might be more than you think. In this example today, it was $1 million mistake, and it happened from a misunderstanding over an event invitation. My name's Kyle Hagerty. I run a group called Leadership Nomad that helps organizations overcome cross-cultural communication issues arising from expanding into new markets around the world. And you might be thinking that an event invitation may sound strange, but expensive misunderstandings like this happen all the time. They cost organizations millions of dollars or more. And this can happen in the form of lost deals, failed partnerships, losing key employees. Often businesses don't even know what's happening. And the situation is getting bigger because more organizations have expanded globally. But I think the problem here is that people have not. We all have our own working styles, including how we communicate, how we solve problems, how we disagree with one another, and how we build relationships. These can be vague concepts, but this is where many problems start when you work with people from different parts of the world. Now, the good news is that these working styles, they can be defined, and these differences, they can be measured. As Peter Drucker once said, if you can measure it, you can manage it. So let's do that. Let's start with communication. There are direct communicating cultures where talk is considered straightforward. You say what you mean what you say. As direct communicating cultures include US, Australia, Germany. Then there's indirect communicating cultures, which involve a more nuanced style, or tone is more important, where it might be required to, say, read between the lines a bit more. Indirect communicating cultures include China, Indonesia, Japan. How we communicate is just one example of a working style. There's a lot more. This is a data set created by Professor Erin Meyer from INSEAD. She also looks at how people provide negative feedback. She calls this evaluating. How they lead, how they make decisions, how people build trust with one another, how they handle disagreements. And finally, how do cultures handle time? Are they on time, or is there more of a flexible concept? Now, if you want to reduce cross-cultural mistakes in your work environment, using this kind of data is a great place to start. So let's see how Germany scores on these working styles. You can see they're pretty direct. They give negative feedback even more directly. They're task-based on how they build trust and score confrontational when it comes to handling disagreements. Now, remember the example at the beginning of this talk? It was a German company that I was talking about who had expanded quickly across Asia. They invited a CEO of an Indonesian client. This client was spending $1 million a year with them. They invited him to a customer appreciation event. The CEO responded that he and his wife looked forward to attending, and he wanted to bring several other people from his team along as well. The Germans, this isn't how they do things, so they wrote back and they said, no. The invitation was only for the CEO and maybe one other executive. Now this is how you lose $1 million account in Indonesia. Let's look at how Indonesia scores along these working styles. You can see some major differences. They are indirect communicators. They avoid confrontation. It's the exact opposite of how this German company handled the situation. Executives in Germany had no idea that these differences were so big until we brought them in together. We got everyone together to look at this data. And this changed everything. They decided on a new course of action. They flew down to Jakarta to meet the CEO and his executive team. They spent more time with them building the relationship up. They practiced new communication styles, especially when it comes to handling difficult conversations. In other words, they started thinking about the world from their local client's point of view rather than how their headquarters traditionally see things. It took some time and some adjustments, but this account was saved. We can look at data maps from dozens of countries, which is really fun. Here's the US, for example, and how they compare to Japan. Next time on this session, we'll have some fun talking about why we Americans tend to confuse the heck out of the rest of the world, so stay tuned for that one. But these differences in work styles can make or break organization success as they grow into new markets, because mistakes like the German invitation happen every single day. You can use these kinds of data sets to better understand how working styles vary around the world. Because again, if you can measure it, you can begin to manage it. So feel free to reach out to me at my email address here if you want to learn more about how your organization can lead better across cultures.